Hey everyone, this is Scott here, and today I wanted to talk about Windows subsystems for Linux. So if you've never used Linux before, Windows subsystems for Linux is a great way to get started with Linux. In fact, you can read more. If I pull up a web page here, you can read more about WSL at Microsoft's website. So if you go WSL, Microsoft, they have this whole page here about how to install WSL for Windows Home or Windows Pro. And here are basically the basic instructions of getting it set up. If you're really wanting to get into Linux, I suggest trying out just the bog standard Ubuntu distribution. But basically, how to enable this feature, it takes a couple of steps. It's going to take more than just like opening up the command line. So I'm just going to put that out there. There's a couple of prerequisites that you need just before following this guide right over here. If you want to enable the WSL feature or the feature set, you have to go to turn Windows features on or off, which you can just do by pressing the Windows key and searching up feature. So once you press this, you're going to be met with a ton of features. To basically enable that WSL functionality, you're going to have to find this here, Windows Subsystem for Linux, and make sure that's enabled. If that's not enabled, then you're going to have a problem installing it. So once that's done, you're going to press OK. It's going to prompt you to restart. Once you get that restart prompt, you're going to want to restart your computer and then come back to the CMD, which I'm going to open up now. So to open up CMD, or actually, you know what? Instead of CMD, we're going to use PowerShell. To open up PowerShell, you just type in PowerShell in our run prompt, and to open the run prompt, you're going to want to press Windows plus R. So Windows plus R brings up this run prompt. You type PowerShell, then you type or press Control Shift Enter. It will give you a prompt for administrator. You press yes, and this is where you can install WSL. So if you see this little command here, that's going to install WSL. However, the big thing that you're going to want to know is that WSL doesn't automatically install to the latest version. So when you want to go to the latest version, which is version 2, you're going to want to type the following, which is WSL set. Okay, you're going to want to do these two dashes, dash dash set dash default dash version, and then you want to say version 2. So just put in the number 2, and you just press enter, and I made a typo there. So yeah, big thing here. Make sure you check for typos before you enter a command. And there it is. It's set to version 2. So what if you want to install a distribution? Well, what you can do is you can do WSL-O-L, or oh, sorry, what happened there? You might actually might have to be the full form. Okay, so it was the other way around. You want to type in WSL-L-O. Sometimes with these applications, even though these parameters are technically, like, I mean, it shouldn't really matter which order you put these parameters in. But for some applications, especially in terminal or in this case in PowerShell, the order in which you put the parameters in to specify certain things is going to matter. So here, what I've essentially done is WSL-L, which means dash list, and O meaning online, like what are the available online distributions. And it'll give you this list right here. So you can install Debian Linux. You can install Ubuntu, which is just based off of Debian. You can do Kali Linux, which is based off of Ubuntu, and many more. So you got like a whole bunch of options here. To install your first one, Debian, I'm gonna just type in WSL dash dash install, and then dash D, and I'm going to put in Debian, and I'm going to make sure I put a capital D. Remember, sometimes case sensitivity is important, and you're going to need to make sure that your commands are the proper cases when you do type them out. So once that's done, I'm going to press enter, and it's going to install, and you're going to see this little prompt here, and it's going to be like this long bar here that is eventually going to fill out to 100%. It's just going to take a little bit of time to download, but after that's downloaded, it's going to prompt you to create a user account for that operating system that's essentially running in your terminal. Um, as the name suggests, the subsystem is a subsystem, so it's not like a full-blown Linux desktop environment. You're really just getting access to the terminal to use Linux under Windows. Essentially, what subsystems is. Okay. Oh, there we go. My CMD turned on. So it might, you might have a little bit of you might have a pop-up menu come up. Just ignore that. It's just downloading and setting up everything that is necessary to run these subsystems effectively. So there's no problem with that. It'll close by itself. Okay. It says VM01 login failed. I don't. No, it didn't fail. It just got stuck for whatever reason. These things happen. But anyways, I'm gonna create an account. So I'm gonna type in Cepheus for my user. I'm gonna press enter. It might get angry at me for making that name. Sometimes they, for whatever reason, distribute these operating systems uh, that restricts certain words from being used. I don't know why they do it, but it is kind of just how it is. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to cover was sort of just basics of how to use WSL, essentially on both the PowerShell side and within the Linux subsystem itself. Unfortunately, my OBS software broke when I recorded that section, so I have to re-record this again. But anyways, basically, if you go to WSL and you want to list the distros that are installed, you just do WSL and then -L, and it'll give you the whole list that we installed. And as you can see here, I have Ubuntu here, Kali Linux, and Debian. So if you want to set a default operating system, or let's say hypothetically you don't know how to set a default operating system, what you can do is you can do WSL-H, or I guess this didn't work. Maybe if that doesn't work, then you do WSL-question mark. If that doesn't work, then just do WSL-help. Usually, one of these commands will give you a help menu. Sometimes, unfortunately, these applications don't come with a help menu. So if that's the case, the other command that you can try is doing get-help WSL. So that's going to download a manual from basically Microsoft, and it'll basically tell you how to use this command with every kind of option. And it looks like it's not working at the moment. But yeah, I guess if you need a last, like if it comes to a last resort, you're gonna have these options available to you, so you want to make sure you remember them in case you don't remember a command. So if I were to do, for example, on WSL, and then I was to do --help, it will pull up a help menu. Now I want to change my default WSL operating system to a different one. So if I do WSL it'll list the available installed operating systems that I have. And if I want to change the default, I'm going to just do WSL-set-default. And I'm going to make that Kali-Linux. And it's going to set that subsystem operating system, which is Kali Linux, to my default. So whenever I type in WSL, it basically sets up Kali Linux for me. So it's booting up, it's doing its setup process, and I should be faced with the Kali Linux basically cursor. So what happens if you want to update this subsystem? Well, that's super easy. With Linux, for example, especially one that is Debian-based, you're going to be using Aptitude, which is your package manager, which updates your entire operating system. So if I wanted to update, all I have to do is sudo apt, as our package manager, update, and if you want to confirm all the updates, you just do -y, but for this instance, I'm not going to do it. This command over here, sudo, that means super user do. So super user do gives the system, the subsystem in this instance, administrator privileges. So just enter that, and you're going to want to type in your password. I think mine is just, if I remember it even, I don't even remember what it was. There we go. Okay, I remember the password. Okay. I was like scared if I was gonna remember or not because I created that virtual machine a long time ago and I think it was just for the sake of, but there you go. So now we have that done, and then what we can do is sudo apt upgrade and it will basically upgrade those packages. So just do that and it will upgrade the entire operating system for you. So once that's done, then we can start learning about the command line itself. Okay, so the system update is done, but one thing I forgot to show you was basically if you exit out of here, and let's say you wanted to boot into an operating system that wasn't your default operating system, you can do this little parameter that you can find in the help menu called -d. This parameter allows you to select which operating system to boot into. If I wanted to say, instead of booting into Kali Linux, I want to do Debian, I can not download, sorry, but like basically launch that installed operating system by doing that. So it's going to do that, and basically I'm inside Debian. Yeah, and if I want to log out, all I have to do is type exit, and I'm out back in PowerShell. But basically, if you need to look for something, let's say with a package manager, you're going to do this command here, and you're going to want to type, yep, super user do apt search. You can even do it without super user do. But basically, you need to have these two commands here, apt search, to basically query for applications. So like, let's say I wanted to search for Brave browser. I would search, and then I would get all these options here. Unfortunately, Brave is not available for this subsystem because, of course, it's not a desktop environment, so you can't use a browser. But what you can do is maybe get something called links. So if I do sudo or just apt search links, which is a text-based browser, I should be able to find it. So we have two. We have links, links 2, and links. So I'm gonna install both links and link. So I'm gonna do sudo apt install links and links, and I'm gonna confirm this by putting -y. -y means yes to the following packages, and it's going to install just like that. I put in my password, so I have to do that real quick. And it's downloading, and look at that. It's all there. So now when I open up links, I now have a built-in command line browser. So if I press go and I wanted to go to Google, look at that. I'm using essentially a DOS-based browser. You have to say yes to the cookies to make sure, well, to get access to the website. But yeah, this is it. This is basically just what browsing was in the 90s, essentially, for graphics-based browsers, before Netscape even. But yeah, that's one thing you can do with Linux. I'm going to actually I want to quit out of this. So if you need to quit, just press Q, and then press Y to confirm. But yeah, basically that's Linux. If you want to list the current directory that you're currently situated in, you want to type ls, which will give you the essentially the entire list of your current working directory. Unfortunately, I think there it is. Okay, it just stalled for a second. But yeah, this is the current directory of my Windows system, and because it's a relative directory, or the subsystem is working relative to Windows, I'm reading it from the mount directory. And that's why it's reading out all those Windows files instead of Linux ones. So if I wanted to read my Linux ones, which are from my home directory, I would use the tilde to represent my home directory. And as you can see here, I don't see anything. So if you don't see any files listed, sometimes -a reveals them, as you can see here. Sometimes just putting it into a list, like with L, makes it look a little nicer to read, basically giving you not only what files are hidden, but the permissions of every file in that directory. And then another basic command that you probably want to know is cd. So change a directory, or a relative directory in this instance, you could basically do cd, and if you want to say, let's go to root, and yeah, go to root. Uh, this is a common thing that's going to happen. If it's permission denied, that's fine. If you're a super user, you can get to that by just doing sudo cd. Yeah, with this system, it's a little bit different. See, every Linux system works weirdly in different quirky ways, and sometimes sudo cd might not work, but in some other operating systems it will. In this case, it looks like I have to use the dash s param. So it looks like, oh wow, I can't even do that either. If I do, let's say, there's another way that I can get around this. One important command that I should show you is sudo su. So if you sudo su, and su meaning switch user, this will allow you to get administrative or access the administrator's account. So doing that can sometimes bypass this problem that I've been facing. So sudo su, and now I'm in root. If I read ls, and then I do the tilde key for the home of root, I now read the folder. Uh, Again, it's all hidden files, so I have to do -la or al, doesn't matter which order, and now I can read the file system. If I wanted to cd into a directory, all I would have to do is cd, and then specify the relative directory or um, absolute path to that directory. So an absolute path would always start from root to get to that directory, whereas if it was a relative path, it would be a path that's relative to your position. So a relative path to me would be mnt because I'm already located at root. If I were to be at root, I would have to type in /mnt. Or let's say if I was already in a different directory, let's say cd run, I couldn't just do cd mnt because I'm already in the directory run. So then I have to type in the absolute directory, which is relative to root. So that would be cd/mnt. And then I could access mnt. These are, the more time you spend with it, command line, the more you're going to start to understand things, and things are going to come together. It's just kind of the reality that there's some concepts that are going to seem really abstract, but then really start to solidify itself once you just start spending time with it. And yeah, I think that's honestly everything. Oh yeah, and one other thing that I almost forgot to add: if you type in cd dot, this will allow you to go back one directory, so you can go back to whatever directory you were previously in. That is, you know, not that you were previously mounted to, that is relative to the directory that is above that directory, if that makes any sense. Again, you kind of have to start putting yourself in the Linux environment to sort of really start piecing things together. It sounds abstract when you explain it, but trust me, it'll get easier to understand once you're in it. So without further ado, I think I'm going to end this video here. Thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, please leave a like up. And if you dislike it, leave a thumbs down. And please leave a comment as to why you disliked it. Is there something I could have explained better? Are there alternative tools that I should have shown people on how to use that would have made their lives easier? Is there anything that would have made this process just easier to do? Please let me know in the comments. And always take care, and see ya. Bye for now.